First of all, I would like to say, I would like to be able to welcome Sam Farr tonight, but I cannot. And so, I'm going to have to do the mayor because Sam was on the phone with us, and he will be coming back in early February, but he misunderstood, or I misunderstood. Somehow we got cross signals going on about today. He thought the event was tomorrow. And so, for those who came here only to hear Sam and not to hear our other guests, and we do have a panel of guests to talk about the issue today, all I can do is say I'm sorry. And he screwed up. I screwed up. And so I had a healthy dose of Jewish guilt since I'm Jewish, and instead I'm going to have to fill in and do what I can. I did spend many hours with Sam touring the county, and also when he came to talk about when he recorded his public service statement regarding Measure K, and I know what he planned to talk about, and I'll do my best to fill it in. I used to be a substitute teacher, and I'm back in that role again today. So first of all, we will have a panel starting up front from various folks who have ideas about why they're opposed to this project. This is not to get everybody on the same wavelength. This is not a general forum. This, about the issue. This is not the League of Women Voters. This is not an effort to give you both sides of the story. We have no, frankly, I think they present their own case just fine, and so I don't intend to misrepresent their case. This was organized by the No On K campaign, and Sam had every intention of doing just that, which was to make a case for No On K. So if you're here thinking that we're going to give the other side of the story, we're not. Honestly. I couldn't do their case, I couldn't do their position justice, frankly, because I don't agree with it. So let me tell you how Measure K came to be and why we are organizing against it. So in 2015, we had a new general plan adopted in San Benito County. And lots of people were involved with it, including a number of different consulting firms. And ultimately, we ended up with a general plan that has some very unconventional aspects to it. The major one, some of you may have seen the literature and the map that we've been handing out that shows pictures of 16 nodes across the county. I have been talking to land use attorneys and to planners, and we actually this evening are going to hear from the former planning director of San Benito County. This is a very unconventional way to plan. These 16 dots or nodes have no exact location, have no exact acreage, and yet are both attorneys for developers and attorneys for the county of San Benito are telling us we now must move forward and rezone these areas in accordance with this general plan by state law, and we must make areas of commercial zoning in all of the places that they have dots on the map. And as I said, there are 16 of them. 4 on Highway 101, the others are on 156 and Highway 25. And as only reason I found out about these nodes is because one of my neighbors on Cole Road came to me and said, I got a notice that said they're going to be building a shopping center and a development right next to me. here. And I've never heard a word about it, and nobody else off of Cole Road had really heard much about it either. And as we began to do inquiries, we found out that almost nobody had heard about these nodes across the county, and yet we were now going pell-mell, charging toward this new world of a different San Benito County. And so we organized lots of folks, and we went to some, because the first phase of their rezoning of these nodes was the 4 on Highway 101. And so we went to a bunch of meetings at both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Lots of folks raised issues about their concerns, everything from traffic to changing the nature of the community to water issues. And we basically felt that although the supervisors listened, they did not hear, as so often happens in government. And it became obvious to us that the supervisors were going to go ahead and vote to create what they called the Regional Commercial District on Highway 101. And briefly describing it, and we have lots of literature that we'll pass around, the Regional Commercial District is made up of 4 nodes, 4 on and off ramps at Bedeville Road, 129, and both sides of the highway north of the Red Barn. These 4 properties, now a total of about 300 acres, will be zoned commercial. And each of these nodes will, the permitted development will include a hotel, 100,000 square foot of retail shopping center, and at the end, as we move forward at the Planning Commission, right before it went through to the county supervisors, they added 30 residences at each of those 4 nodes. So, as I said, we knew it was coming, and we reached out to attorneys, and we launched something that has never been done in this county before, which is a citizens referendum. Now, as I said, I was once a substitute teacher. I also had a career as a teacher, and although I started out as a biology, chemistry, and math person, eventually I taught a lot of government because I taught at Soledad Prison, and I had to teach every subject. And so in teaching about government, I am a New Yorker. I came here when I was 18 years old. I learned about something special about California. California, since 1910, has 2 mechanisms of direct democracy. It was put in place by something that we don't hear very much about anymore, progressive Republicans. Hiram Johnson, one of our most illustrious governors, had a convention of the Republican Party in Santa Cruz, California in 1910, in a state that was being run by Southern Pacific Railroad. And they created 3 tools to regain the state from corporate interests. That was the initiative process, whereby the people could create a law on their own and force it to a vote of the people. And we've had an experience of that in this county when we passed Measure J in 2014. The oil industry had gotten the supervisors to approve oil drilling near our national park in the southern part of San Benito County. The other thing that they put in 1910 was the recall. And California, you may remember that we recalled Gray Davis. He was one of only 2 governors in the history of the United States who was ever recalled. And the final was the one that's used perhaps even less, and that is the referendum. And the referendum is when a legislative body, a governing body, passes a law or a ordinance that the public does not necessarily agree with. And the problem with the referendum process is you have a very limited period of time to react to that. Less than 30 days after they enact a new ruling or law. We knew it was coming. We hired the lawyers. It was fairly easy. You basically print the ordinance and you demand that the elected body essentially pull it back, take the ordinance back or put it to a vote of the people. And we needed 2,060 signatures. We collected 4,428 signatures. For those of us who went down and collected the signatures, and we had 83 volunteers that went out and collected them, we found a deep anger in the county of San Benito about the pace of growth and development. And it was across the political spectrum. I'm wearing my version of a MAGA hat today. It says, "Make America Green Again." But I had people who signed my petition that had red MAGA hats that said, "Make America Great Again," and they signed the petition. I had people with Bernie Sanders bumper stickers who signed the petition. Across the board, there was a sense that somehow decisions were being made in this county that they had no part in, and that they were living the consequences of that in terms of traffic that far overwhelmed the infrastructure in this county. I talked to one woman, and my wife is making signals at me, so I'm going to try to close it fairly quickly. I talked to one woman who said, "I am on the verge of being the victim of domestic violence because my husband leaves the house at 3 o'clock in the morning for his job in the Silicon Valley and drives 2.5 hours there, and then comes home when he's lucky in a 2.5-hour drive, if there's no accident, if there's no unusual traffic, and the other day he punched a hole through the sheetrock in the wall." And I found, we talked to a young woman the other day whose husband was killed off of Highway 25 because he thought that, in order to get home to his family in these traffic jams, that there might be an answer, and he bought himself a motorcycle so that he could get through the traffic and not have to deal with the many, many hours of it. And he was killed in an accident. She's probably going to be speaking out for our efforts to curtail growth in this county. So that it was no problem whatsoever to get people to sign this petition. 75 to 80% of the folks that I approached signed the petition, and I collected 840 of those 4,000. So I told elected officials, I probably talked to around 1,200 people in 26 days, in parking lots and by post offices and at their doors, and at Nob Hill and Target and at Ace Hardware. All sorts of different kinds of folks from all sorts of different walks of life, and all of them feel that they need to be more involved in the decisions that affect their lives, that they feel anger, but also a hope that they can curtail things that have gone awry in this county. And we are, this Measure K, if we defeat it, they cannot move forward and rezone these 4 spots. There's folks are claiming they can, and I think that our former planning director will talk about that. But our lawyers have assured us that if they attempt to rezone using some other commercial designation, that would be a violation of elections law, and that for at least a year they cannot approve this rezoning. And we actually are starting to talk about getting these supervisors to take these nodes off of the map, doing what some other counties have done around the state and saying, before you ever do any major development outside of your city centers, you have to present the project to the population, you have to see how the infrastructure is going to handle it, the traffic, the schools, the water, and then ultimately you have to submit the decision to a vote of the people. And counties like Sonoma and Ventura have succeeded in saving their character because San Jose is anxious to swallow us up in the same kind of growth pattern that ate up the Valley of the Heart's Delight and turned it into the Silicon Valley. That all those folks escape down that highway every single Saturday or Friday afternoon because they don't enjoy living there very much. And we think there's something we can save. So Mary, would you like to add something to this?
Thank you. I wanted to give a chance to our other forum members. Let's see. I think that Sam also wanted to, he will be coming, sorry he didn't come today, but he actually told us that he wanted to talk about alternative ways our county could generate revenue besides just building and building. He's very proud of the fact that he helped create the Pinnacles National Park. It was a national monument, so he really wanted to talk about ecotourism. But we have a lot of great guests here, very formidable members of our community. Anne-Marie Sayers, Val Lopez, Chair of and I was wondering if our other speakers could come up here. Josh Jensen, if you're here, you can come up. And, also, Rob Mendiola, would you like to come up here? I think there's room for everyone. So we're going to let each of them speak a little bit about sort of their history here in the county and why they are opposed to Measure K. Sorry about this. Here. Would you like to go first? Anne-Marie, you want to go first? I think we'll...
Can I talk to this? I really don't need it, quite frankly.
Well, actually, yes, please.
Oh, okay. And exactly, Mary, what did you want me to talk about?
So why are you against Measure K? Remember when you were interviewed about Measure K? Like you were talking about
Why am I against Measure K? I'll tell you why. Because our society is so absent of the sacred. 20 years ago, I was working with Caltrans, and I monitored the rocks area. And that is a very, very sacred area. There is indentation on the top of where, right between where the rocks are located, between Highway 101 going south, Highway 101 going north. And you can feel the ancestral spirits still there. And by God, I am sick and tired of my ancestors being disrespected. I really, really am. Because our society is so absent of the sacred, they don't get it. Everything has to do with money. Well, sacredness does not. And to hold a place and a space sacred has to be respected. And I will tell you, for commercial stuff to go in for money is not worth taking a sacred area and destroying it.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Lopez, and I'm the chairman of the Amah Mutsun tribal band. And our tribe is comprised of the descendants that were taken to Mission San Juan Bautista and Mission Santa Cruz. Why our tribe adamantly and firmly opposes Measure K. The reasons we do is all four sites are very sacred and/or cultural sites. when we look at Benito is just an extension of Eurostock. Currently, we have a serious campaign in Eurostock going on. If you were to go to the website, protecteurostock.org, you would learn that is a site where our big head ceremonies were held. Those are our most important ceremonies. And now there's a proposal to do sand and gravel mining at Eurostock, take down 4 of the mountains where these ceremonies were held. So, and then the people that bought the properties are called Debt Acquisition Corporation of America. They have no intentions of developing the land. All they care about is monetizing the land. They want to be able to get that mining permit, and then once they have that mining permit, they'll flip the property and sell it. They can, that property right now is appraised at probably 30 million bucks or so. If they get that mining permit, they can sell it for 120 million or more. They make quick money and they move on. And they make that quick money at the expense of our ancestors, of our spirituality, of our culture and our environments. And not only our environments, but it's a very sensitive environment. Eurostock is at a point where there's a really critical habitat going from the Santa Cruz Mountains into the Gavilan Range Mountains. And then going from the Santa Cruz Mountains across into the Diablo Range. It's going to impact all forms of wildlife in a critical way. And that's right at Benito, as I said, Benito is just an extension of Eurostock. Now, when you go to the rocks, as my honored friend here, Anne-Marie said, it is a very sacred, very spiritual place. Our spiritual leaders would prepare for ceremonies here. And they would hold ceremonies here. And I was talking to someone from this room now, and they've gone down to see where the spiritual sites are and stuff like that. And it's just incredible. When I was a child, my parents would take me there. And we'd enter the caves and we would talk there inside the caves. We cannot let this be destroyed. And then when you go up to the next section where the red barn is, Caltrans was going to put a freeway there. They bought the property to put a freeway there. And there was a cultural site. And they took us out there. And they chose not to put that freeway there. And a big part of that reason they chose not to put it there is because of the cultural site that's there. If Caltrans is not going to develop because of that, why do these investors believe that they can do it? It just goes on and on and on. Haven't Native Americans sacrificed enough of our cultural sites, our spiritual sites, our cultural sites? They keep wanting more and more and more. And they say, well, let's compromise, let's compromise. Well, they want to compromise until there's nothing left. We refuse to do that. In 2012, we established the Amah Mutsun Land Trust. And we have 4 goals for the Amah Mutsun Land Trust, and one of them is to protect our cultural and sacred sites. And today our tribe fights hard to protect our sites. We're going to fight hard for these cultural sites here in San Benito County. We have a lot of supporters that follow us, and they're willing and they will follow us here to San Benito County to oppose these nodes. There's many other ways that the counties can make money. And I understand and I hope that we're going to talk about some of those ways tonight. And we look forward to contributing to that conversation. Thank you.
Hey, Phil, you're supposed to be up here too, I just realized. Would you like to come up? Phil Esparza, Executive Director of Teatro Campesino. I did want to mention that what I think Anne-Marie and Val are referring to, there's actually a Caltrans archaeological study when they expanded the highway 20 years ago. It recommended that the rocks, which is by Rocks Ranch, be on the National Register of Historic Places because it's a very sacred site for Native Americans, as well as early California figures, I guess Tiburcio Vasquez and Joaquin Mariana used to do their banditry around there. So that was another reason I think the archaeologists recommended it. So there's a lot of history there, and so I think that's, anyway. So Phil, would you like to go next, or who wants to go?
Go ahead, Rob. I think we
Okay.
can hear from development.
Okay.
You want? Okay. I want to address some misconceptions and some inaccuracies I hear on the part of the other side.
Closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want to address some inaccuracies and misconceptions that seem to be promoted in talking points on the pro side or the yes side. The concept that the C1 zoning. Let me try this. Is that on? How about now?
Yeah.
Everybody here? The concept that C1 zoning is going to be far worse than the C3 zoning is completely wrong. If you look at the ordinances, and I have, look at the permitted uses in a C1 zone. There are 11 permitted uses in a C1 zone. There are 14 named uses within that 11. There's some compounding. In the C3 zone, there are 30 listed uses with 53 named, they're compounded. And then there's a clause that you could take a battleship through, maybe an airline carrier, that says that they can do anything that's approved in the master plan. So there's really very little restriction as to what can occur there. In the C1 zone, it is discretionary completely. It needs a yes or a no. And that is consistent in the C3 zone. But to say that it's less restrictive is an inaccuracy. The other inaccuracy is that the general plan has these nodes, we have to rezone it. We have to do it now. Well, if that was the case, they should have done it 5 years ago when they adopted the plan. It is not accurate that you have to do it now. There's other things that can be done, including change the designation. You can phase the designation, and you can find any combination of other things to address the general plan inconsistency. So it is inaccurate to say, oh, we have to do this. We don't have to do this. As a matter of public policy, your vote will count. It will make public policy. If the people at the county don't hear your vote, then they see what's coming for them at the next election. And it really has to be that way. Another point that came up today that bothered me was I saw a commercial that said, oh, well, this is smart growth. Oh my God. Smart growth came from a meeting that was held in the Ahwahnee Hotel in 1991. Some very prestigious architectures out of UC Berkeley, Peter Calthorpe and Andre, I forgot his last name, and a group of other people came up with what is known as the Ahwahnee principles. And from that came smart growth principles. In 1995, the EPA adopted smart growth principles, and I have a couple here, and so you can see how very well this doesn't comply. Smart growth is really a mechanism to create walkable communities, neighborhoods that have multiple options, attractive communities with a strong sense of place. Here's the good one. They're created to preserve open space, farmland, natural beauty, and critical environment. They're created to have transportation choices as opposed to being just auto-oriented. There's other principles here, but I think you could see that putting nodes out in the middle of nowhere do not comply with the smart growth principles, and it's a complete misnomer to say that it does. Just real quick, they love to say, oh, well, there'll be so many benefits, we'll get all this money. No one has talked about the costs. No one has talked about the costs. They haven't analyzed the cost. If you live here, you know the services provided are a minimum. And how many sheriff deputies drive through the Aromas area on any given week? It's meager. If you're going to have 4 nodes, you're going to need dozens more police, and that comes at a great cost. There are other costs as well. I'm not proposing that I'm doing an analysis now, but one needs to be done. The concept that we'll do more environmental work later flies in the face of the California Environmental Quality Act. It requires that you look at the impacts of any given development up front, not later, not as we go, but up front. And finally, when you're traveling, how many of you stop every 2.5 miles to relieve yourself? Trust me, you need help if that's the case. And with that, I think I conclude my comments.
Sorry, I didn't introduce. Rob Mendiola was the Director of Planning, currently I think they're called the Resource Management Agency for San Benito County for over 20 years, right? And so he's retired, so he has a wealth of knowledge about planning in San Benito County. Who wants to go next, Josh? Or?
Mary, before you do that,
oh, yeah.
I'm sitting over there with my wife, and when I'm listening, it's like listening to a ghost.
Sorry.
And I can't see the faces, so if you could...
Oh, okay, if you could stand up, if that's okay, would that be okay? People in the back can't see as well. So Josh Jensen is a legend in San Benito County. He started Calera Winery, which is famous around the world, and he's now retired, but thank you so much for coming down to talk to us about your ideas about the future of San Benito County.
Let me see, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I ran a winery and started it here. Learned out when I had my 50th birthday party that all my friends thought I was going to go broke because dry countryside, Cienega Valley, down the creek from Anne Marie's wonderful Native American canyon, where they have, she even named her daughter Canyon. But it's where they have ceremonies and try to maintain the conditions of the natives that grew up, including your mother, in that same canyon. And I looked out from up above the hill right bordering on Anne Marie's property and looked down on it, past it to see the Diablo Range, and it was a magic place to try to make wine. And I did that for 40 years, and then 2.5 years ago I sold our winery, Calera, to a prestigious and highly rated winery from the Napa Valley called Duckhorn. And their wines are expensive. Now that I have to buy them in a store, they're really expensive. But it was a fun place to raise my kids and learn all about business and running a premium winery. That a lot of our about 30% of our business was exported. The wines that we exported out of the country, including our biggest customer in the world, was our two importers in Japan. We're better known in Japan than we are in you name it. So that was a fun thing that always surprised people. So when I sold the winery, the brokers, who were personal friends of mine, especially after 9 months of working arm in arm together to try to make this sale, they said, you know, first thing I had said to them, don't talk to any giants about us, Gallo or other places like that. I won't go there. And they said, well, then you'll get a lower price. And I said, well, actually, not really, because I'm not going to sell to those guys. So if good human-sized wineries, it'll be the one with the best bid to us among that group. But I'm just not going to sell to a giant and have billboards, which we can talk about, and big gross buildings built up. So that was what I did. I'm fully retired now and enjoying it. I live up in San Francisco, and but I'm very emotional and appreciative of this county and people like Rob Mendiola. For many years, I'd go trembling in my boots into the county approval office, and he was always fair. He'd say yes sometimes and no sometimes. But the one big reason this county is so attractive, even still on a human scale, and so long as we can keep these people building gross-looking mini shopping malls in sacred rocks and forest, as Anne Marie has mentioned, and is the decisions that Rob made over those years, where he wouldn't let people go off the deep end. But so I've greatly appreciated, Rob, what you've done for me. But so that's really the gist of what I wanted to say, and apparently Andy was telling me that Sam Farr believes that some of these isolated individual spots in our county that we may take for granted, like driving through the Rocks area and through that. I think they're eucalyptus trees. It's just special. Most counties would give their eye teeth to have places that look like that now, and we can't just go and bulldoze them and wreck them. So I salute those of you who are against this mindless real estate development. Little stores sprinkled around the highway that sell cheap stuff and nothing really made of quality. And let's not let them ruin our county for us. too many individuals who've kept it clean looking and pristine, and I'm all for that. And I do want to also give big thanks to Andy and to Mary. I'd never worked in a political campaign, and it was really fun, and we had a wonderful team spirit with keeping the frackers out of our county. And one big reason for our success was Larry and his wife were teachers. And they really put in an effort to get the high school students in the county to turn out and carry petitions around and things to sign to join the No on J, or yes, I forget what it was. Yes. And so there was a wonderful team spirit with Anne-Marie hosting at her place down the canyon from us a number of parties, and we had some at the Calera Winery as well, and we won in a landslide with spending about not like 1/20 of what the big oil companies, Chevron and what was the ExxonMobil, and we had total donations from of about $220. And they put in millions, and but these students, a lot of their parents were working in agriculture in this county, and the teachers they respected, and we just stomped them. We stomped the giant oil companies. So that was very satisfying, and still to this day is satisfying for me. But thank you for careful attention, and fight the fight. Thank you.
Yeah, I know how to use a mic. I'm just going to say a couple of short things. First of all, thank you for all of your efforts in the committee, a wonderful group. I'm up here. Wonderful information, important, passionate, and they're from here. These are our neighbors. They are invested. So please take it to heart. I also want to thank the musicians earlier. I always want to give a shout out to the artists. They always have that. Despite difficult conditions and so forth, so thank you. And thank you for everybody that bought some food for everybody else to share. What better way to show the unity of the community than to share food as well as good words, good deeds. Yes, I'm with the Teatro. That's been my life. That's what brought me here to San Benito and San Juan Bautista. Glad that I'm no longer a newcomer. I have been here almost 50 years, so I'm no longer a newcomer. Seen many changes and not so many changes. What's important is that there is value on so many aspects that has been discussed tonight as to what makes San Benito County so beautiful. Such a wonderful place to live. Yes, we got problems. Yes, we got, this and that, lack of resources, but we can make it work. And the most important aspect is that many people alluded to the public and so forth. Guess what? You are the public. You elect everybody. We don't need to take examples from what's going on in Washington about that dysfunctional way of interaction. What we're doing here is real democracy in action. And so what we need to do is take all the wonderful information, take the flyers, take, we should be taking, everybody needs to take a couple of these. I know I am, going to add it to my house. And let people know where we stand. Often you are taken for granted because you're too nice. But a little action can put a little salsa on that niceness. There's elections happening. You go to these supervisor and other election forums, ask the questions that have been brought up here. And when they don't give you the answers that you like, tell them why. Why not? So you need to go out and just do old 60s activism. We can do it. And so I urge you to do that. I think instead of 83 volunteers, the next time we get together, I'd like to hear 830 volunteers. That's doable. We all know people. And it was great to hear that you talk about the young people. They're missing here. Luckily, my grandson came. You know? But I mean, there needs to be a lot more. Where's the Youth Alliance? They should have been here. There was the Youth Alliance here. You know, we do it public because this is the world that they're going to inherit. Us old timers and another generation, I'm sorry, but we'll be watching from above. So we got to get them involved, get them out there. You know, an image is everything. And these cockamamie nodes and whatever. I was talking to Rob. I can imagine them having a dartboard. They threw out the darts and that's how they come up with the notes. It's just selfishness. It's just greed. What we need to demand that these, what we want is good, solid planning that's good for us. The one note that I want to say that I think Sam would have alluded to, luckily I've had a couple of conversations with him over the years, and that is, they talk about cultural tourism. Being with the Teatro is what it's about. We are a professional theater company here in San Juan Bautista. We bring good people into town, you know, and using the arts to spread goodwill and spread the will. And we can, those things are possible. We talked about, you mentioned the selling of cheap imitation of goods and so forth. Handmade stuff is so, when we travel around the world, that's the big thing nowadays, you know. Amazon, all these guys are always trying to find a little guy that's selling something boutique or whatever. San Juanito County is perfect for that. We just need to encourage it. We just got to be a little bit smarter. Write the good play, which is a good plan for us to do the work that we need to go. I'm too low. And so it's possible. It's doable. Take advantage of all the students at CSU Monterey Bay. That's your university. That's where I work. We have some great departments that are into helping and focusing our students to get involved to help create a better world that they're going to have to live in. You know, so let's bring all that together, and we can further develop the tourism with the arts and a real positive aspect of what our lives could be here. Through what you all did with on the fracturing and Jay and all, stopping all that, which was alluded to, and that was amazing. I'll let you know that the entire state, if not the country, is going to be looking at what we do. Okay, I have heard that in many places as I've traveled. That, oh, you're from San Benito County, yeah, you kick Oil's butt. And we can do it again. But let's be smart about it, and let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's not do what they're doing in Washington, just point the finger. Get the facts, be smart about it, and help create a good, positive plan that's inclusive, and it's better for all of us. So it's easy. No one K, no one K, he can. No one K.
Have Mary, I should say, I think I worked pretty hard on this effort, but there is nobody in the world that works harder than this person over here. It's unbelievable, and sometimes it's painful, but all the time, and she needs your help, and she's going to explain how you can help and why you need help.
Well,
Whoa, 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 wait, wait. Good for you, Mary.
before we do that part, Andy, I was thinking it might be helpful to introduce, we always introduce notable people, elected officials, people running for political office, so I wanted to do that very quickly. So just raise your hand or wave. Roland Resendez is and Mayor Ignacio, Hollister's mayor. Colin Kosmicki, who's running for John Friedman, running for also Supervisor District 2. Oh, Adam Scow, yes. Adam is against Jimmy Panetta, so he actually helped us with Measure J quite a bit. And Z. Is anyone else here elected official? Oh, yes. Want to stand up and introduce yourself?
I'm Steve Keene. I'm on the Board of Trustees for the Hollister School District. I do have a couple of things to say if you permit me, as far as...
Sure, yeah. Actually, we are going into our Q&A period, so I wanted to give time for our audience to ask questions. You want to come up to a mic, Steve? Use this one.
As I said, I'm Steve Keene, and I'm on the board... Closer! Hollister School District. To begin with, I think all of you should know what a difficult thing it is to deal with these builders. We are in the process of completing a school, Rancho Santana, first one we've built in 20 years. When the first got started from a previous board, the land for that school was supposed to be donated by the developers. As time went on, not only did it not be donated, the land that was worth about $1 million, they charged us $5 million for it. And we were in no position to say no at that time. In looking at this Measure K, again, I don't know if any of you have downloaded the exact measure and read it. In there, there's no mention of any residential developments. None. And that's what they would like you to know. There's these strip malls that they're buying, I love your comment. Those things are going to go under quickly. Who's going to stop every 2 miles? Then, on land, sacred land to Native Americans, we're going to have a burned out strip mall that nobody goes to anymore, or it's just going to be an eyesore on the community. I don't know if anybody's ever thought about that, but how could 4 possible strip malls exist in such a short little area? Good questions to ask yourself. And again, the real reason, in my opinion, from what I've seen or what I've read, they're not interested in the strip malls. They're interested in those residential houses.
Exactly.
And you want to talk about traffic?
Yeah.
That's what's going to bring in more traffic. That's what's going to bring in more traffic. And I just think more information needs to be put out to the public about developers. And believe me, they are not going to give you a break. They will not give you a break. You're going to find out the details later on, after it's too late, about these things. So I just thought I'd bring that up to you and give you some things to think about. So thank you.
I believe in infill. I think we have mayors here from a couple cities here who should be totally against this and getting their people up, rising up against this, because if those are going to be new hotels, put them in the cities. If they're gonna be, if the county needs money, make a deal with the city for it to expand and make a county-city deal, but put them by the city. That way, people can access the restaurants, they can access the arts, they can access all the businesses there. We've got to, the county has to think smart that the growth should be by or near or in cities that already exist. What happens when they start doing this little pocket development is that it doesn't stop, because once you have it there, then there's no really good reason not to then add another housing development, because you need people to shop at these stores they put there, or it just keeps expanding. And that is wrong, for so many different reasons, along with the transportation. All of these smart growth initiatives, I was involved with them in Monterey County, the walkable communities, etc. And yet, what happens is that the supervisors see needs that they can't fill, and they want money. So this is all about grabbing for something to pay for other services, and we understand that. But what needs to be done, along with just saying no, I think creative people, need to come up with some yes ideas to bring in smart growth, to bring in, if they can get a national chain to put something at Rock's Ranch, they should be able to get a national chain of something to put something in a local community if the community wants it. So we need to look at other options and be able to go to the supervisors and be able to say, we understand the need for money. I'm not a San Benito County resident, but I know what the roads are like. I know how little Aromas gets, or in our areas get in policing. So I understand all of those needs, but it has to be done in a smart way, and this is just basically sort of a money grabbing, trying to grab some opportunity. It's not that far off 101 to San Juan Bautista. Right. If they put some effort, like those big signs, wow. If they put those big signs on 101 to get people to San Juan Bautista, wouldn't that be awesome, instead of putting those big signs saying yes on K?
Those are great points. Sam actually did want to address that, and we did want to say not just no, but also talk about how our county can develop economically in a more sustainable way that would bring more revenue. So look for our next event. Sam has promised that he is going to come in early February. We will definitely address that. Did you have a question? Sorry. Sure. Okay, real quick. Okay.
Real quick. And I want to thank you for that comment, that question, because you hit it perfectly. Leapfrog development does not work.
Yes.
We know this. All it does is increase our expenses, so we start losing more money. We have this incredibly beautiful community here. Nobody's going to come here to go shop at strip malls that they have in their community. When I have friends and family come visit me from different areas, they always say the same thing. You live in a picture. It's crazy beautiful here. We need to encourage that tourism. We need to stop the craziness with leapfrog development. And the city, county has made this mistake so many times. So many times. Look, I'm not anti-growth. I'm for a slower, smarter growth. Recently we had a development in our city of Hollister that made me say, that's it. I don't want to see any more developments until we fix this problem. And what it was, we have our school board member here, a school here, a development about a quarter mile away. How do the kids get to school? in the mud. And when it's muddy, what do? Have to jump onto the street. And the developer's response, or those favoring it, said, that's not our problem. You fix it.
Yep.
Why do we have to keep spending tax dollars to fix the problems developers are creating? Smart planning, as I pointed out on that development, if you don't build that road and that sidewalk, if kids can't get from that development to the center of downtown, it should never be built. And we all have to make sure we're pushing that so we can make the changes. Because I'm going to tell you something very important. Being slow, smart growth is not very popular with some people. We get pounded on constantly for it. But all of us together know the right answer. So we all have to stick together. And I'm so amazed by this group on what they're doing. I fully support this. Because they have the courage to stand up and put their necks out and put their dollars out and put their time out to make that difference. And without them, we have shopping centers everywhere along that corridor. We don't want it.
I'm going to take a few questions and we're going to talk about what okay, so you look very passionate, want to ask this question. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how far this is. You want to come
Do
up?
you want to come up and...
Please.
People can hear you.
Hi, I'm Claire Castro. Like Castro Larios, I got a little bit of investment in this land. I'm not really interested in any more growth at all. I think we need to figure out what we're going to do with what we've done so far. I was at the Walk for Herstock, and my husband and I saw a mountain lion coming down a game trail. If we block that, they're going to interbreed. We're going to have crazy situations with our wildlife. And I was also wanting to ask, I don't know if you guys got in the mail, but like the first flyers that came out had to do with some guy from Pebble Beach. His son passed away from cancer. And I talked to some of my buddies who are my age. I wish there were more here, but they're like pulling on their heartstrings. And it just seems like a total smokescreen. Like what's going on and how are we going to present this in a mass, you know, acknowledgement that that's not really the case. And I just want to know how to spread that word. Thank you.
You know, obviously, I don't want to diminish anybody's tragedies in their lives, but I don't think that is a reason to make a bad decision regarding development out here that makes life worse for everybody else. I respect the fact that this person wants to raise resources for important research, but it shouldn't really come at the expense of livability here in this region. And I don't know what more I can say about that. It's not a wise decision. We didn't talk much about, you know, was anybody else going to talk to that?
That's good, okay. Any other questions? Did you have one, sir?
I think I'm gonna skip that.
Okay.
Whoa, I didn't hear that.
Oh, Larry, okay.
This is great. This is great. And I love Andy. I love Mary. They have, Andy said Mary works 90 days. She works 8 days a week, 24 hours a day. And Andy, I go out there, Knob Hill, I go to Hayes. They would be out there right now. They wouldn't be out there right now working. They're working their butts off for nothing. Nothing. They were successful in J. We worked together side by side in Z. We got the oil companies to stop fracking in Monterey County. Then they brought in renewable energy, Monterey Bay Power. Now they're in this campaign, but they need help. They need help. The developers have a lot of money. If each of you can take a sign, and Mary's going to talk to that later, but I just love these two people. And they need help. They're trying to protect the environment, and I want you to help.
We're here.
That is very moving, thank you. I was actually thinking about how to introduce the next topic, which is exactly that, we need your help. And there are two ways you can help us. I think that people have been passing out these half sheets. We need volunteers. Oh, yeah, thank you. Hold up, Cynthia, the form. So if anyone else needs a form, let us know. But what we'd like you to do is to just take a little bit of your time, because the election is much faster than most of us are aware of. We were told by the election office that February 5th, people will start receiving their vote by mail ballots, even though the election is March the 3rd. So it's much faster than we are used to. The other thing is, I asked them what percentage of people vote by mail, and they said 85%. We are such a commuter community now. So many people work in Silicon Valley and elsewhere and commute here. So we need to reach all those people. So there are several options. We call it canvassing with your friends and neighbors. So we have a lot of literature here. If you could just take some and be our, the foot soldiers out there. That's what we really need. This is really a grassroots campaign. We need you to be out there talking to your neighbors, your friends, your family, anyone, your coworkers, people you meet at the grocery store. Give them a flyer, tell them about K, and urge them to vote, or explain why you are against K. So that would be one way. That's a very simple one. The other is canvassing. You could canvass in your neighborhood, and we can provide you with the list. We also have people who don't want to walk, so you could do that at your neighborhood store. We'll train you on that. So canvassing is very important, and there's not very many days left. You could do it on the weekend. You could do it anytime you want. We do it in the afternoons now. Trying to think. Oh, the other important thing is signs. Because we are a grassroots campaign, we have lots of lawn signs. So we need you to help us get more of them out. I noticed there are some out, but we still need more. We also have large signs, thanks to our large sign team, Richard and Michael and several others, Pete. We have a sign team card, and we actually have some large, people have been asking us, where are your large signs? We have some now, but we need more locations, and we don't want to put them in just anywhere. We're really trying to avoid trashing our community with signs in all the public easements, so we are looking for private property. And I know people like May on 4th Street in Hollister put one up in her front yard, which is fantastic. So places like that, Cynthia has put one in her front yard, and then downtown, fantastic site, everyone can see. So if you can help us out, please fill out the form. We have lots of pens. I think Mary here has a bunch of pens in the boxes. We can distribute that to you. So please fill out the form, and it's really not that much time, You could put down how many days you can do it. I would really love it if you could say, I'll do it every Monday, or every Sunday, or several days a week. I know that Wolf, a very dedicated warrior for Measure K, let's see, where is he, Wolf? Wolf actually spent like almost every day. He's from Prunedale. I mean, so people from San Benito County really should think about it. He's from Prunedale, and yet he cares so much about this issue. When we were collecting signatures, Wolf collected almost 600 signatures, and he would actually stay overnight. And I asked him, where'd you stay? He slept in his car because he didn't want to drive all the way back. So he's going to be helping us again. He had to help his mom who had a heart attack, but now he's back and probably going to be doing lots of canvassing. So we need people, you don't have to be quite like Wolf. But if you could sign up for maybe a couple of weekends, just any days that you could help us canvass, we would really appreciate it. Oh, and before you leave, if everyone could take some flyers, this is the community canvassing, you know, just with people that you know in your neighborhood, your friends and family. Please take as many flyers as you think you can distribute and fill out the form. Cynthia.
Were people getting together on the corner over there in Hollister on
Oh, very
Fridays?
good, yeah. Fallon is, raise your hand, Fallon back there is our organizer of the Honka Wave. She said, some of you might have gotten a text from her. She's been using the texting as a way to reach people, because a lot of you don't read your emails anymore. So we are doing this every Friday, right, Fallon? And it's
4 o'clock till dusk, or an hour, a little bit over an hour, as long as you can stand standing. And if you can bring a homemade sign that you can hold up that can be read from a distance, we've been getting a really good response from the commuters that are coming in with positive honks, and which is telling us that people support what we're doing.
So
And,
I think you said 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 to till it's dark, which is changing now, about 5:30ish.
Yeah.
And so, how many people would like to help with honking? It's a 4th Street, we're changing it because we're trying not to conflict with the peace group.
Right.
So I believe it's gonna be a 4th and San Benito Street this Friday, right?
Isn't it the next 2 Fridays there, and then we change?
Yeah, and then, yeah.
But I'll be sending out emails.
So how many people can do Honka Wave? It's very simple. You don't have to talk to anyone. This is fantastic. So if we get enough people, we will also do it in on another day. So we're thinking about like even a Saturday because there's a lot of traffic in downtown Hollister. We're kind of focusing on Hollister, but we could also do one outside at the Alameda and 156. You know, there's an area there. So please talk to Fallon or write down Honka Wave on the form that you have there.
And if you're gonna write down the honking wave, give me your phone numbers so that I can send reminders out.
Yeah, the form has a phone number, so that way we can figure out what you want to help us with. So Honka Waves will be very, very helpful. And a location for a big sign, just write it down if you have an address or want to talk to one of us. Let's see, was there anything else?
How can people get,
Yeah.
ask questions?
Email address.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can they do our website? Is there a-
Yeah, if you go to our website, the email is info@preserveourruralcommunities.com. So if you go to preserveourruralcommunities.org, sorry, .org, not .com, preserveourruralcommunities.org, it's also down there. So info@preserveourruralcommunities.org is our email address. We do. We also have Facebook, and we would really like it if you could like us and share it. It's called Preserve Our Rural Communities, No on Measure K. Okay, so Preserve Our Rural Communities, No on Measure K, and we could use some help. Oh, with social media. So Shirley here.
I have a question. How many are you going to volunteer for this initiative? We need more hands than that. Raise them up. Come on. How many of you can give money today? There's a bucket here. In the last meeting, they asked for $50 commitments, $100 commitments, and a lot of people wrote checks. I lived in Gilroy, and when I first moved there in the 70s, I was surrounded by orchards. And after I left 3 years ago, I was surrounded by outlets. I had a very dear friend that worked at Kaiser, and he said when those outlets came in, along with Super Walmart, kids' asthma went up. My niece was in the hospital going to deal with her asthma at least once a month. It increased after that pollution came in. And when they say they're going to donate to cancer, pollution creates cancer. It adds to cancer. And we do not want that for our children. So I moved to Juan Bautista in order to get away from all that noise, all that traffic, all that pollution, all that congestion. And now if I go, outside of San Juan, horrible traffic, horrible. I commuted to San Francisco from Gilroy for 15 years, and I did a petition on the train to create a bullet for people, and the board said, oh no, we don't have a traffic problem. I guess they never drove down 101. When I first moved to Gilroy, I was 101 was Monterey. And he's right. There was no connection between San Jose and Coyote. If you drive 101 now, San Jose is Coyote, right next door, and it's going to increase. So we all have to work hard, and I really thank Mary for involving me. And I didn't get many petitions, signatures, but I did try, and I did it on the time that I had. But each of us can play a role, and I hope that you do. Thank you.
One more, I pitched for money. I should tell folks that Mary and I have not been working for money on this. As a matter of fact, we donated $1,000 ourselves to this effort. This effort is not going to be done on March 3rd. We're going to, it's clear that there are forces in the community that are going to try, if we prevail, which I believe we will, to disrespect our decision and the will of the people. And we are going to need the resources. We do have some lawyers that are working pro bono, but some of our lawyers aren't. We are going to need significant resources to continue this fight. And ultimately, we probably will have to force them to take these nodes off of our general plan and make it so that in the future we're all engaged in these decisions. And all of this takes resources. And I ask all of you, as you think about it, how much would you pay not to live in some of these horrible places in this state at this point? Go to places like Orange County and these other places that have lost all their beautiful land, and ask yourself, what is it worth to you to keep this place the beautiful place that it is and to build a better future? So think about that, and yes.
Quick question. So one of the things you said about if this passes is that they wouldn't be able to build anything or change it for 1 year. Why 1 year?
Because essentially, this is an effort by developers to get a zoning change. And my understanding, and Rob probably knows more than me, is when it's denied, they can come back again in 1 year. Unless, of course, we turn around and remove these nodes, have these supervisors amend the general plan and remove these nodes, or we as a group move an initiative that removes these nodes. But they are clear, they're adamant they're going to come back the day after our supervisors put Measure K on the ballot. One of the developers, the one in Benito, came in with their lawyers to the Planning Commission and asked to have their property approved under a different zoning status, C1, commercial 1 instead of commercial 3, with no change in their project whatsoever. Fortunately, they pulled back that request, but they actually got a 3-2 vote from the Planning Commission to give them the go-ahead to go around the people on this. So we're going to have to keep on pushing until these nodes are off the map, yes.
But also, on January 6th, the same lawyer from San Juan Bautista, he's on the city council here, Dan DeVries, walked into the planning department and applied for C1 on behalf of the owners of one of the smaller properties at Highway 129, asking for C1 zoning, which is what Betabel had asked for, Betabel. And they also asked that they hold off on it. It is C3 now, zoned that, and asked that they hold off until the March 3rd election. But somebody asked earlier, have you read the ordinance? Have you read 991? It's not the zoning that we're referending. We're referending the regulations of the zoning. The zonings are under 3 different other ordinances. And so if we vote no, we're really voting on the regulations for C3 zoning. And so I'm not a lawyer. Who knows what's going to happen?
hint about my experience. I take these flyers in my car, and I first go to Y for my aerobics, and I ask the teacher, I said, do you mind if I make a little announcement? Everybody's been so helpful, even the people at the desk. And I always say, are you registered to vote, especially the young people? And sometimes they say no, and sometimes they say yes, and we get into a little conversation. Then I go to the, to get some paint at the Ace store. And I find that the manager of the store that I have to consult about something, and I say, oh, I'd like to give you a flyer. I'm part of this citizens committee. And he said, and we talk for 10 minutes. Then I go to get some water at the water store, and by golly, he is very interested in clean water in this county. So I leave him a bunch of things, and I go to the Monterey Credit Union, take some money out, and sometimes put it in, and I talk to people there who know me as a little old lady. And it's very interesting if you just take a bunch of these, and wherever you go, to the doctor, to the dentist, to the store, to that store, to your yoga, to the senior center, and what's the worst that anybody could say is, hey, you don't solicit here, you're not allowed to do that here. You say, oh, okay. That's never happened.
Okay, this evening I donated $100, and I gave it to Amy.
Let me just say one thing. So last time when we did this, I don't know if I did it very well. Do you want to help me, Andy? We started with a higher amount. So what is the highest amount that someone wants to donate here? Can you raise your hands? Because we actually need significant money, I'm sorry, but to pay our attorneys and people like that. I think, can anyone donate 500 to 1,000? Is anyone willing to do that? Raise your hand. What? Anyone? 500 to 1,000?
Come on, guys.
Oh, great. Someone else back there? Okay. Jot down people's names and go around. Who can do between 500 to 250? Any donors? Oh, great. Okay, I mean, all of these are very important, no matter the amount. So I do 250 to 100. Anyone who
Right here. We already got
I did Tom 200, and I did.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you another 200.
To 100. Raise your hand. Anyone can do. Okay. Thank you, Ramon. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. And anything below 100, raise your hand. I'm sure somebody can do that. Every hand. 10 or 20. Thank you very much. So we didn't have a chance to have someone record everything, but we respect that. We trust that you will honor your pledge. And so what you can. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a trained culinarian. I was a chef at Ellis. I will offer a meal. I'll come to your home and cook for you if you get 1,000 for free.
Whoa! So we have if anyone wants to donate, we do have a couple people donate that. So we have the offer of a home cooked meal. So from someone who's a trained chef. So thank you so much. That's a great offer. And for those of you, if you don't have your checkbooks, that's fine. You can actually, put it on the piece of paper that you did a pledge. You can write a check to preserve our rural communities. Preserve our rural communities. We have a great treasurer, Tom, here. We'll take your pledge. You can get it to us. I'm trying to think how you get it to us. We do have a few people who work on our behalf. Lois, at Lois's Unique Home Furnishings here in town.
If they put it on Mary, if they put it on this, their telephone number, they'll call them.
That's
and
true. You
pick
put
it
it
up.
on here, we can also reach you. But yes, Oh, and the other thing is that's very important is we need a lot of our signs to be taken.
Yes,
So please
don't
take
leave without some
yes,
signs.
take as many signs as you want. We have probably 1,000 or so, and we also have Spanish language signs, which I think is really important for some communities. So please take as many signs as you want. We also need people who can help us put more signs up. And as I mentioned, we want to do signs in private property. So please write down or come and talk to us if you want to help us with getting signs up. But we really appreciate, this is really a community-owned referendum. It belongs to all of us. So to win, we need all of your help.
Cesar Chavez has a saying, sí se puede. ¿Se puede? Se puede. ¿Se puede? Sí se puede. And Cynthia wants to lead us in a song.
No, I don't. Maybe Mary can do a blessing for everybody that's here. Or we can sing a song, imagine, and everybody can be invited to eat some food afterwards.
Our minstrel,